Hello, everybody. So good to see you.
Good afternoon.
Can you all hear me well and can you see me well?
Yes.
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 Can you?
Yes.
Excellent. So good to
Yes.
see you. Can you also see the presentation? Best
Yes.
practice videos. So
Yes, all
let's
good.
start. Welcome to this course, Best Practice Videos and Interviews Shot with Your Cell Phone. For those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Ariane Bethusy-Huc. I'm a video producer and director at the European Science Communication Institute, and as such, we are member of the CURIOSOIL consortium. I welcome you to this course. Very briefly, I'd like to tell you a couple of information about myself. So I've been working as a video producer for like 24 years now, first as a freelance and then for ESCI. So I've been shooting videos, I've been scripting videos for various purposes, for example, cultural case studies, scientific case studies, social media campaigns, documentaries for television, broadcast television, ARTI, for example. So I have a wide field of practice. Also, I'm doing many of the times I'm doing the camera work by myself. And what I'd like to do now is to share some experience and expertise with you that I have gathered over the years. So why are we having this course? So what are the benefits for CURIOSOIL? So we'd like to engage CURIOSOIL and sister projects to use your cell phone and generate footage for purposes such as social media posts, for educational material that we are going to develop within the project. Or maybe you have the opportunity to visualize case studies that we can use for outreach and evaluation. So therefore, we are looking for events such as workshops, events where we can see people actually in action, hands-on situations, statements, short interviews, whatever you can think of in your like own field of expertise. So at the end of this course, you will hopefully have learned something about the basics of content creation and visual storytelling. You have gained essential technical skills for recording footage with your cell phone. You will have learned very simple strategies, basic strategies for improving your interview results. And also, I will give very few insights into practical and affordable accessories that are very easy and very cheap to get, but that will enhance your cell phone video recording output. In the end, you will also get a digital handout, of course, with all the things that we have discussed, summarize, and also some links to the accessories that I recommend. So we have started already. I have divided the training into two parts. Part one will be about the key elements of a video, talking about content and story development, structure of a story, talking about visuals and sound. And you will have, we will analyze a little example together. And then in the end of this first part, of course, you will have a little exercise. And hopefully Abdul and Enrique will be able to share the Mentimeter link with you in the chat. After a short break, you will have a break of, I don't know, like 5 to 10 minutes maybe. We will start again with part two. And there we will dive into the actual more technical aspects of shooting with your cell phone, which is the cell phone settings, of course, and then how to actually shoot video footage, the so-called B-roll footage. You will gain expertise in interview techniques, and we have a little exercise here as well, and in the end, a short summary. And of course, you will be able to also ask questions in between, but also in the end of each part. And yeah, and then we will have a digital handout. Okay, so let's start with the first survey. Before we really start, I would actually like to get to get to know the most likely occasions where you imagine where you could gather video footage or record interviews within your own surrounding, within your own field of work. So, Abdul, Enrique, can we share the Mentimeter link? Okay, so in the chat you will find the Mentimeter link. You can also use your cell phone and the QR code. Can you still hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because I can't see myself. So right now I would like to join you. I would like you to join the Mentimeter survey and answer the question, what is the most likely occasion where you could gather video footage or record interviews? Very interesting. So we have community projects, many of them. We have soil workshops with adults, many of them case studies, soil workshops with kids. Abdul or Enrique, is it possible to share the results?
Yes, but I will interrupt your sharing for a moment, okay?
Okay.
But no, actually the results can only be shared by you. I can.
Okay, sorry, but I have no clue how to do this. I was hoping that you will be able to.
Yes, if you share the screen again. Okay, I will share it here. I have it here. Here you have it.
Okay, cool.
No,
So we see,
I'm
yeah.
not in yet. I don't know how to get into this thing. Sorry, I can't enter. I tried to put the code into my cell phone, but it doesn't get anywhere.
So sorry to hear that. Maybe we can figure that out. And
I just got it now. Just I need a moment. Sorry,
okay, no problem.
Almost 70 years old and I have a hard time to this. Okay,
it's fine. Take your time.
No print.
So yeah, maybe we can already start, Enrique. Yes,
Yeah.
thanks. So it's
share again your screen.
Yeah, mostly. No, you can stay there for a little while. Stay with the results. So actually, mostly we have soil workshops with adults and community projects, and also soil workshops with kids and students. So very interesting for us. Let me share my screen again.
Yeah.
This is actually very interesting for us because actually we are looking for that kind of footage, just to make sure we have enough footage of what is going on out there in the fields, working together with communities, with kids, with adults, because we can't be everywhere and film anything and everything, and we don't want that. Actually, and also it's not, you don't have to come up to us and offer us the footage, but for example, if you have recorded an event or anything else, just keep it. And we have the idea of asking whenever we need something for our dissemination goals, for our MOOCs, for our social media campaigns, and we don't have the opportunity to film what we need. We ask you as a community of practice members if you have footage that you could share with us. So in this way, it is very important for us to know what kind of events you're gonna plan for your recordings. All right. Okay, so let's start actually with the really basics of visual storytelling. So the key elements of a video. What does a video consists of? It consists of a story, you have the content, you have your storytelling. You have, of course, your visuals, as we all know. You might have your interviews, especially in our cases. And then there's sound, additionally to voiceover or speak interview sound, we have maybe music. But there are also like 4 key factors that are to consider for building up your storyline. And why am I telling you that? Why is it important for you to learn how to create? Why is it important for you to know about the structure of a video or how to build up a story? If this training is just about improving your videography, cell phone videography skills, well, because imagine if you're out there in the field and you have an event going on and there's so much going on at the same time, and you don't know actually why am I doing this, what I'm shooting this for. So it's very important to have actually a rough idea of what are you going to shoot in terms of, is it, for example, for a social media campaign? Is it, for example, for a case study? Is it, for example, for a short documentary? And if you know what you are shooting the footage for, you know you are much more precise in taking your images rather than, oh, there is something interesting going on. Just go there and film it in any style. I don't know. So as a professional camera woman, for example, if I'm out there in the field trying to get some beautiful images, I'm much more precise and efficient if I really know, have a rough idea about the topic, about the key message of the video, and about the use and the target group of the video. So that's why it is really important to always know what your message is, or have at least a rough idea of what your message should be in the video. At least have a rough idea of what your target group is. Is it kids? Is it adults? Is it scientists? Because you can come up with different stories, of course, for different target groups. And kids, they need completely different visuals than the soil scientists would need, for example. Also be very clear about the structure and of your story. And well, there could be a whole training about storytelling here, but we will stick to very simple structure of intro, middle part, and ending. So coming from theory to practice, I will share, let's watch together a short video. I will share this video with you. This is a video of our first social media campaign, Why I Teach Soil campaign, and this has been spread on social media platforms such as LinkedIn. So the purpose is social media campaign, it's a teaser, and let's just watch the video.
Soil suffers a lot with the way that we manage it. I got really intrigued about the topic and how soil can really affect our lives.
We need them to be functional for food productivity, but also to regulate the climate. And we like our soils to be healthy in, for instance, your backyard in the city.
Before stuff comes to our home, to our supermarket shelves, they come from the soil. They come from the earth. They grow and they get beautiful together in the soil, and then we buy them.
Gerade Thema Humus oder Boden ist für die Kinder sehr, sehr schwierig zu verstehen, weil sie dazu hier, vor allem hier in der Stadt, kaum Bezug dazu haben oder sich nicht vorstellen können, was sich im Boden jetzt wirklich abspielt.
One of our goals is to sensitize people to be aware of the importance of soil and going out of the classroom in order to learn by practicing, by studying, by doing.
Explore them holistically, involving teachers from different disciplines to look at a certain problem or certain question from different angles.
So it could be interesting to have case studies that could also be used, let's say, by a math teacher. It's not limited to specific subject.
We learn together, we share our experiences, we try to have our mutual goals and objectives. And by working together, we can actually strengthen education and be the important role models that our children need.
That's why we need to take soil into consideration and analyze everything that's around it and make it the main character of our story.
All right. So, coming back to our very simple storytelling structure that you have seen before, starting with a focused theme. So starting with, what is the message? If you take this video and look at it, you see that the key message here is that soil suffers a lot with the way that we manage it. Coming to the point where we want to say that one of our goals is to sensitize people to be aware of the importance of soil. So the key message is soil suffers, and we want to sensitize people to be aware of this problem and to be aware of the importance of soil. This is, first of all, the key message, and this is also the introduction. Soil suffers a lot. We have a defined target group, which is teachers from different disciplines, using case studies, for example, that could also be used by a math teacher. So it's not sticked to a specific group of teachers, but it's pointing towards a multi-perspective approach when it comes to soil education. Well, we have some authenticity, I guess, here. We have very personal approach. We have real engaged people in action. We have this guy directly speaking to the audience and trying to engage the audience, which makes it good for the use as a social media teaser. So the structure of this video starts with this intro. What is it all about? And we have this guy, and it's about pollution, soil contamination, and soil, dysfunctional use with soil, for example, construction sites. We have the middle part that explores the topic. We have different people talking about the topic soil, why we need it, for example, it's functional for food productivity. And then we have a little twist in the story. This is a teacher, and she talks about the difficulty for children specifically to understand the importance of soil because they have little connection to it. They live, for example, in cities. So there's a little twist in the middle part in the storytelling. And then we come to the key message. One of our goals is to sensitize people and to be aware of the importance of soil. And this is done holistically, you know, like people, the students, for example, they go out in the fields, explore soil science, the topics of soil science. And then we have the ending, which could be a summary or a solution for a certain problem. Or in this case, it's a call to action. So that's why we need to take soil into consideration and analyze everything and make it the main character of our story. So again, why am I telling you all this? Because we want to tell a visual story. You know, sometimes people come to me and say, hey, I have a nice video here. And I look at it and it's just talking heads. It's just an interview or maybe several interviews edited together. So, but this doesn't make a video. This doesn't make a visual storytelling. Even in this 2 minutes, short 2 minutes, there's so much visual footage that is eye-catching, that is authentic observational footage. It focuses on real-life experiences, on emotions, on interactions. So this is what we are looking for. So now you understand, maybe coming from an idea of what the story of your video or the topic is, to the need of having really a huge amount of good, well-captured images to tell the story, actually. Yeah, so so far so good. I hope you got an idea of why it is important to have even a rough idea before you start recording footage. And I would like to know if you have any questions up to here.
Yes, I have one.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much for this practical guide as first shot. What kind of software would you advise us to use?
Do you mean software recording software or editing software?
Editing software.
Okay, so this is a question at a very early stage, because we are not there yet. Post-production, we are.
Sorry.
We are in the planning part. So, I mean, there's several editing softwares out there. So I don't expect from you to edit your video by yourself. I mean, if you are able to, this is excellent. I would recommend, for example, DaVinci Resolve, which is free to get, but you need to be a bit advanced in video editing. May I postpone this question and coming to it a bit later? Thank you. Okay, any other questions regarding storytelling and like having an idea of what your key message could be?
Yes, again, I have a question then.
Yes.
What about privacy issues? People that are in front of your camera.
Yeah. Very good and very important question, because before you go out there in the field and record people, especially children, but any people, of course, you need to be sure that you are allowed to record them, to film them, and that you are allowed to even publish their image, that you're even allowed to use their image. Therefore, you need an agreement form. It's always good to have an agreement form with you, which says actually gives the information, who you are, what you're shooting for, what kind of project, and what your dissemination goals are. For example, it's going to be published on social media platform. It's going to be published on YouTube, and it's very important for them to know that if they don't agree with what you publish, they are allowed to take back the right of using their image. I haven't prepared an agreement form to share with you here because this is also due to several country-specific regulations. So I would suggest, Harry, and maybe Escher can help out here if there are like concrete requests for an agreement form, as I believe Escher has used professional you're expert here, right?
Yes, Esther is an expert on this. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll help you
So-
out.
Okay, cool. So if you're actually out there in the field, you want to record something, you want to record people, maybe you get in contact with Azure beforehand and ask them for, I don't know, Harry, maybe a form, a paper that suggests the wording. Is that feasible for you?
Well, I'll see how far I can get in this. Yes.
Okay. I mean, also, maybe we can share a link afterwards with some Google suggestions. All right, any further questions? Okay, let's go on then.
I love.
Oops, sorry. Okay, so you've just learned about the very basic structure of storytelling. And what I'd like you to do now is to watch this video. And then you again have a Mentimeter link where you can, as an open response, share your thoughts about this video. So try to link it to what you have learned. Try to link it to, oh, did you get the message? So what is the message of the video? Can you guess the target group? Did you understand the structure of the story? How was your general feeling about the film? Did you like it? And if so, why? And if not, if you didn't like it, why didn't you like it? Just give a little feedback here and try to apply what you have learned already. Okay, the QR code is the same as before. Abdul, Enrique, can we switch the Mentimeter now, as previously discussed? We don't hear you, Enrique.
Yeah, the link is the same as previously. I will put the link again.
Yeah, but we need to switch the question in the slide.
Yes, but that would have to be on your side.
Okay, do you see it now? Watch this video and apply what you have learned.
We have to fill the first question and submit and skip question, and then it will.
I believe we can see it.
Yes?
I can see it on my phone.
On the app, you can see it. On the app, it's in there.
Fighting monoculture with legumes.
Okay, cool. Oh, cool. Cool. So I will share. You can also can you see actually the presentation while being on Mentimeter? Still?
No.
Okay. So
we can either. Which one do we prefer? I can have this question. This is the question. This is
yes. This is the question.
This is the results where you can see the answers.
But you should watch the video before you answer. And the video is 3 minutes and 40 seconds long. So I will share it here. So maybe let's okay, maybe you come back to this presentation. Let's watch the video again, and then together I can share it here. And then you answer the question. You give a response on what you have learned from that, right? Let's watch the video.
I love legumes.
Oh no, I'm not sharing, am I?
No.
Okay. Okay, I'm sharing now. Let's watch the video together.
But mainly chick. I love legumes, but mainly chickpea and mung beans.
I do like peas.
Why?
They're very sweet tasting.
It's lentils because I like just that taste.
Legumes, such as beans, lentils, and chickpeas, offer a variety of health benefits. including being excellent sources of plant-based protein and dietary fiber. Despite these benefits, legume production in Europe is still marginal. Cereal production has been the main focus and occupies more than half of the arable land in the EU. This needs to change, and the agricultural practice of intercropping could provide a solution. But what exactly is intercropping?
Intercropping is planting at the same time different varieties in the same place. So you can do an intercropping in rows, one row of barley, for example, and one row of pea, for example, or you mix them completely together.
Investigating the benefits of growing legumes and cereals on the same field is the focus of the EU-funded Leguminous project. The scientists involved in the project dig deep into the soil of different research fields throughout Europe. One of them is the long-term research field trial at Aarhus University in Viborg, Denmark.
In this field trial, we compare pea and barley and the intercrop of barley. And Leguminous is about intercropping. And all these people, they are sampling today.
The scientists are taking root and soil samples to compare plant health and soil quality in monoculture versus intercropped fields.
This is rhizosphere soil which were attaching on the surface of the roots. And now it's ready for the research. We will freeze them and we will then extract DNA from this soil, and we will evaluate the microbial community inside.
The soil samples are a real treasure trove, as their analysis gives a clear picture of what kind of microbes live in the soil and how intercropping changes these microbial communities.
This was the main goal, to improve the soil fertility through stimulating the soil microbial community in a different combination of intercrops, reducing the external input in terms of chemical fertilizer and pesticides, increasing the production of grain legumes in Europe, and increasing the knowledge and the willingness of the farmer to adopt this nature-based solution for their farming.
To do this, the project will combine scientific experiments with a practical part in which farmers try intercropping on their own fields.
In total, we hope to show the farmers that intercropping is valuable, not just for the soil and the microbial community, but also for their pocket.
Teaming up with nature and promoting more sustainable agricultural practices, these are the goals of the EU-funded Leguminous project.
All right, so I'd like you now to go to this Mentimeter quiz or exercise and just let me know what you think of the video.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, there are really some nice comments already, like nice inspiring footage, clear comments. It would have helped to repeat the goals again at the end as a summary. Yeah, very interesting. Authenticity is given. There are a lot of information, but in the end, the key message is given. No call to action, indeed. Key message is legumes should be produced more in Europe thanks to intercropping.
And I'm afraid I'm not showing the results that you are seeing. Can you share that part of your screen?
Yes. Who's sharing the screen right now? Nobody, right? Me.
Me, it was me, yeah.
All right, so can you see the results?
Yes, now I can.
Why can't I? Wait, something is wrong here. Oh, no. Intercropping is beneficial for the farmer. Engaging audience at the very beginning. How would you think the audience has been engaged? Whoever wrote this. Good people talking. So somebody wrote, knowing the subject will help me to understand the video, but for newcomers, it must be difficult for newcomers, well, I guess to understand it, right? So can you explain that a bit? Can you point out why you think it is not understandable or not so good understandable for newcomers? Who wrote this? Knowing the subject.
It.
Oh, okay,
I wrote
so
it.
can you
It because they mention first they talk about protein, but they don't talk about how growing carbohydrates competes with growing protein. Then they go. I have a hard time to remember exactly each step, but I know. And then they talk about legumes. Honestly, I have to look at it each time, but I know that it's important to have legumes in the soil because it's necessary for the microbes in the soil. Microbes need to have more than just monoculture crops, and legumes. Honestly, I would need to look at it again and send you a paper. I cannot. I need to write things down precisely, but I am working in this field. I'm pushing syntropic farming in Ghana because I know that you need to have many more crops in the soil for the soil to develop properly. And so intercropping for me is just a drop on a hot stone. But yeah, sorry, I can't give you more
that's
than
fine. I think I got your point. So what you're actually saying is that like you weren't so sure if they really if people who don't know so much about intercropping really got the points or the steps of why intercropping is so important for sustainable farming. Am I right? Did I get that right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
you're going in the right direction. Yes.
Okay, so on the other hand, many of you wrote that the key message is clear. Whoever wrote this, could you explain, on the other hand, why you thought the key message is clear to you? What is the key message to you and why is it clear? Can somebody explain who wrote this? Clear focus, clear demonstration of research on intercropping. The context is clearly set out. Maybe as one of you can briefly explain what made it clear when you think of the storytelling, when you think of interview parts, when you think of images.
Yeah, I can try to explain.
Okay.
So I think the most important point for me that makes it clear is that they were repeating the same thing. So they were repeating the intercropping part and that the intercropping is healthy for the microbiome of the soil. And as they were repeating it and showing how they were treating the soil in the laboratory, I think it became very clear. And yeah, the main point is the repetition of the same words. Intercropping is healthy for the soil.
Thank you. Very, very interesting. Repetition is a very, very good strategy, also in storytelling, and I guess also in educational context to send a message out there and to try the message to drop somewhere. So indeed, yeah, I mean, we see here something very interesting. At least what you pointed out is you as a specialist in this field, you weren't so sure if everything was put in a way that people who wouldn't work in this field understand it correctly. Am I right? Whereas Joey?
Joey.
Joey.
Or Joe. You can just
Joe,
say Joe.
okay, Joe. You pointed out that because it was repeated several times, the key message of how important intercropping is for sustainable agriculture or healthy soil as one of several methods, for you it was clear. So the thing here to learn is maybe, especially if you are working in the field of soil, especially if you're an expert in your field, you try to flip from scientific expertise thinking to storytelling thinking. How can you really point out your key message? How can you really get the people to understand your message in terms of voiceover or in terms of interviews or in terms of storytelling, visual storytelling? And I'd like to go back to sharing my screen. So yeah, here I am again. So no, do you see me? You don't, right? No.
You see you.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, cool. I think this is a very interesting point, and this is what we are trying here in this first part. How do you get from scientific thinking or expertise thinking, try to flip in your brain towards storytelling and thinking in visuals? So this is the most important part here to learn, I guess. And of course, it's very difficult to do so. You will not be able to do that within just one click. You need time. You need to go out there and try to learn.
Ariane, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
The video starts with a meta problem that there's a lack of lentils, etc., production in, for instance, Europe. But then it all of a sudden makes a switch toward a technical solution, and it leaves out all the other possible factors like world market prices, feed production for cattle, which is, as far as I know, at least as important as the right technology of intercropping. So from the start, the problem is not really connected to the final solution as a one technical solution solves the entire problem. And from the start, I'm questioning the whole video, therefore.
Actually, this is meant to be an introductory video for this project. For example, CURIOSOIL, or in this case, Leguminous is a project like CURIOSOIL, and one of their goals was to have an introductory video that can be shared in social media, but also on the website. And then you have, of course, additional information written down. So what is a video good for? To maybe engage people, to maybe give a picture, an overall picture of a certain problem or solution, And for sure, this is not a, this is not a scientific documentary or a documentary actually that you can see on television. That is, for example, half an hour long and explores all the different perspectives. But this is indeed a feedback. This might be very variable for us as well within ESCI. It wasn't me who has produced it, but I told my people that I would share this, and they were like, "Oh, it's very good to receive feedback, actually," which is really precious for us as well. So thank you, Harry, for giving us this feedback. And yeah,
Can I ask you a second question?
sure.
I mean, everybody uses stock music, and in the end, there's all of a sudden there's a kind of cloudy shade of stock music getting in, but everybody hears the same stock music, and
yeah.
But everyone has a friend with a synthesizer at home. Why not use something original instead of taking something from stock that everyone has heard for 1,000 times already in this kind of sales sort of videos? Or am I
Yeah, I guess this is due to production schedules and also to budgets. Because if you have a synthesizer at home, then you would need the finalized video, and you need discussions and you need your own music storyboard and stuff. That would take time and budget. But I agree, I'm not a big fan of the stock music myself. So that's why, for example, for CURIOSOIL, I try to find, even though it's stock music, find a more, like a bit more engaging music. So we've come to the end of part 1. Unless there's a major question that needs to be clarified here, I would like to invite you to have a short break and be back at 2:55. Or is there anybody who has a major question, a very urgent question?
It's not urgent, but I think it's major.
Okay, go ahead.
Is it more important to take out the message than understand it?
Good question. Ideally, it would be both, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is first of all very subjective. Like it depends on the individual. Same thing with learning, right? So actually, from my experience, if you meet one of the two goals, send a message out there, or even make people understand something, it's of course perfect to have both. But if you manage to already have one of the two, it would be perfect already. It would be good enough already, in my opinion. It also depends on the purpose of the video. For example, now we have seen two videos. One was a social media teaser campaign video, and the other one was an introductory video that was made at the beginning of a project. And so the way a project evolves will have several videos as well. So, and then imagine the video being on a website where you have additional information as written text, for example. It gives a whole different overall picture, right? Yeah. Yeah. Actually, yeah, it's a very interesting comment here. One view can be if people have the main message, they can then dip deeper to understand this. I think it's a good point here. If you get the people to being interested and getting a key message, and then maybe a call to action to invite them to develop more or to find out more by themselves, it's also a good way to make people understand, right? All right. What do you think? Shall we have a little break? Okay, cool. See you like in 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just waiting another minute and then we will start again. All right, welcome back to the second part of our training, where you will get to know the very basic settings for your cell phones to record the best quality videos. You will get to learn what B-roll footage is and how to best shoot good images that fit your story most. You will get to learn basics about interviewing techniques, about also setting up your interview. And we have a final exercise in breakout sessions where you will be in groups of 3 and you will have a little exercise in interviewing. And then, of course, in the end, we have a little summary and also a Q&A part. And you will get a link where you can download the handout. Okay, let's start with, are you all having your cell phones ready? If not,
Yes.
now's the chance to get them ready. To just let you know, we won't be recording today with the cell phones because obviously in an online training, it doesn't make really sense to have you sitting there and film something, your computer or whatsoever. But I will suggest how you can practice with your cell phone in the end. So now it's just talking about setting up your cell phones, and actually you could, if you like, you can leave these settings already. So whenever you have a situation where you want to shoot and you might not remember the best settings, you can just have it ready for future situations. All right. And I have shared in the chat, I have shared guidelines videos on YouTube, how to set up your iPhone and how to set up your Android, because I can't be there with you and help you if you don't know how to set up. So the first thing I'd like you to do is set the camera to your highest available resolution, which is usually 4K or UHD, which means Ultra HD. So 4K or UHD.
Shall I share the guidelines here now?
Yeah, I've shared them in the chat, but you can share them again.
Okay. Yeah, I see it.
Do you have any recommendations for the ratio?
Yes, it's make it 16:9 first, and I will talk about the aspect ratio in a couple of minutes for all of you who wonder what ratio is. Or 9:16 or 16:9. So I want you to set it in the highest available resolution, and also you want to set it to 25 or 30 frames per second. I will explain what frames per second is. And I like you to use the grid. So activate the grid, please. And if you find it, the level meter as well. The grid will become very important especially when it comes to interview techniques.
I've just picked myself up the...
Pardon? Okay.
Question, sorry, I was late. What's the where do you find? I have no idea where the things are on my camera.
Hey, Alice, in the chat you will find guideline. Well, if you have your cell phone ready now, I'd like you to set it to the recommended settings, and you will find the guidelines in the chat.
Oh, sorry.
Quick question. The 30 frames per second is the minimum, or you don't want higher than that?
Well, let's stick to 55 or 30 frames per second, because if you shoot higher than that, for example, 60 frames per second, which would mean slow motion already, it's going to be tricky for not so advanced people. Let's stick to 30 frames per second. We don't want to shoot for cinema here. It's not Hollywood, it's just basic documentary style. Okay, are you set? Do you have it? Do you also see your a grid on your screen? If you're set, just give me a thumbs up so I can see if you're done. Okay, I see you still working on it. Okay, if you need more time, that's totally fine. Because we don't really need the cell phone right now. It's just to get you an impression of what the best settings are. We can come back to that later. So we already have heard the term aspect ratio. I don't know, someone of you, Armando, you asked me the question, which aspect ratio. So what is aspect ratio? Aspect ratio means the relation of how high your video is and how wide your video is. So for example, on YouTube, we always see 16:9 videos that have so that means it's not so high but wider. And on Instagram, we see a vertical, like portrait mode style, which means 9:16. So the video is more high than wide, right? Understood? And for purposes such as publishing it on YouTube or LinkedIn or even television, we always shoot in 16:9, which means landscape, which means it's wider than the height. And if you are not sure on what platform it will be published, please always shoot in 16:9 landscape. So always shoot in wide landscape mode, because in post-production, it is very easy, and this is what we do all the time, to edit a 9:16 video for Instagram out of an 16:9. It's very easy to, if you see this here, it's very easy to just have this frame here, render this frame out of your timeline like this, rather than the other way around. The other way around, making a 16:9 video out of a 9:16 is not really possible. You will lose a very large amount of quality and of the actual size of your image. So please always shoot at 16:9 if you're not sure where it will be published. Do you have any questions here?
I missed part of it, but because I was called. But what is the grid actually for?
The grid, we will come back to that later when it comes to interview techniques.
Okay.
Okay, so we have the settings done. Let's flip to B-roll. What does B-roll mean? B-roll footage compared to interview. Well, you have an interview. Of course, you have a talking person there, and B-roll means all the footage that is needed to tell your story visually. So if we go to this video, for example, that we have seen, the social media teaser.
Soil.
I want to show you this part here. And let us watch this part again.
One of our goals is to sensitize people to.
I'm sorry, let's go back. And I want you to really pay attention to the images.
One of our goals is to sensitize people to be aware of the importance of soil and going out of the classroom in order to learn by practicing, by studying, by doing.
Explore them holistically, involving teachers from different disciplines to look at a certain problem or certain question from different angles.
So it could be interesting.
Okay, this is the part I wanted to show you. So we have a situation here where you see people sitting in the forest as a group in front of a hole that they have digged. And then in the following scenes, you see like close-ups of hands-on situations. You see this guy playing with soil, with wet soil as a close-up. You have this student like listening to soil, exploring the soil with his senses. You have a close-up of the face of the professor. Okay, you have an interview in between. You have a group that is walking into the forest, and you have the group like doing several hands-on experiments. Like she's taking a soil sample. Yeah. All right. So, and this was only 10 seconds, right? Maybe 12 seconds. And in this 10 seconds, you have a huge amount of different images that transports your message. So if you're going out there in the field, make sure you are really there with your cell phone when you see situations that are visually interesting. Because in the end, in the editing process, you will need tons of B-roll footage to really transport your message on a visual level. We don't want to see talking heads all the time. Then we can have a podcast. There's no need of having a video if you see just talking heads. Your message engages the audience because it's visual, because it catches the audience on a visual level. So we need a huge variety here of different shots, of different scenes, of different camera angles.
Soil.
And now I want you to, there's somebody his or her microphone on.
No, I just raised my hand regarding the role of each video or image. Is there a specific amount of seconds that each image should have, for example? You're muted.
Enrique, did you mute me? Oh, no, that's fine. Okay, doesn't matter. Yes, there's, and it's written down in the handout as a guidance. You can say that if you see a situation, a movement going on that is interesting for you, don't stop when you think you have all you need. Once the movement has finished, just keep on rolling like 5 seconds longer than the actual movement or the actual situation you want to record is, because in the editing process you need footage beforehand and afterwards to be able to actually edit pictures together or to have a transition. It's like sewing a piece of cloth. You know, you see the border here, but actually there's much more tissue in there than you see, right? So make sure before you stop recording a certain situation, just count to 5 or to 10 and then stop. just to make sure we have enough footage to be able to edit it. So what I'd like you to learn about now is actually how to think in single images when it comes to a whole sequence. What does a sequence mean? A sequence means, for example, this is a sequence. We see me, in this case, sitting at a table in a room, arranging a plant. And how do we see it? We see it in different single shots. So we have one shot here. We have a second shot here. And a third shot here. Fourth. And fifth. So this already tells a little story. And how do we get there? So this is the 5-shot rule. It is a wide shot, which answers the question, where are we? What situation do we have here? If you remember the scene in the forest, we have this group sitting by the hole as a whole group. So we as the audience know, okay, so this is the situation. I know where we are, more or less. We are here, we are in a room. There we were in the forest. And there's something going on. What is going on? You get a bit closer to what is going on and what you want to show in specific. So this is called the medium wide shot. And we see, and we see, actually, in this case, me, a bit closer, arranging this plant. And here we see how I turn myself to grab some more soil. This is very important for you to know. Also here we see myself turning to grab some soil. Why is that important? Because in the end, if you want to tell a story and there is something happening within a situation and you get closer to it, you might want to be sure that I have a continuity here, that, for example, if I turn myself and I grab some more soil, it should be repeated in the closer shot, right? Did you understand that? Okay, cool. So we have a third shot. It's called person establisher. We have a close-up of who is doing what. And if you remember the forest scene, we had a close-up of the professor explaining something to his students. Then we have the close-up. What in detail? What am I doing there? It doesn't make sense of showing somebody as a close-up, as a head, just doing something. You need to tell the story, what is happening there, what is the person doing there as a close-up. And then you might have an extra close-up. In this case, it's showing what am I doing there when I'm turning and grabbing more soil. And then in the end, it makes a whole little sequence, filmic sequence. All right. So, do you have any questions so far?
Yes.
Yes, please, go ahead.
So you said that we should pay attention on the movement from the first wide shot to the medium wide shot, right? But the thing is, if we are in action in the fields, people won't repeat the same movement, right?
Yeah.
So what is the solution to that?
Okay, what I do, and that needs a bit of practice, but to be able to do so, you need to understand why it is important. So to be able to edit a very specific movement as a continuity, as a continuous story. So what do I do in the field, in practice? In reality, I observe something from a wider distance with my camera and I see something very interesting going on. And I would finish this total shot, but keeping quiet. Don't move too much, making sure the shot is okay. And then I would rush towards this person, and either this person is doing something which is repetitive in its nature, then you are fine, because then you can just arrange your shot and record another of this movement, right? If the person is already doing something else, I would actually ask this question in a very polite way. Sorry, can you repeat that? It was so interesting. So can you just repeat that movement you just did? And most of the times that works. It's no problem at all. But you need to take your action. You need to take. You need to ask. Could you repeat that just for 5 seconds? You know. And you would ask this person to repeat it until you have your shot. Actually, this is what I do, and also documentary style. In most of the cases, it works. So.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
I have a
Okay.
question about
Yes.
the rhythm in the sequence of the images.
Yes.
Is that on your own intuition, or do you use music in the background as a kind of rhythm pattern? How do you do that?
You mean while recording or editing?
No, while editing.
Okay. It depends on the movement. It's a feeling. If the movement is already done, it makes sense to move on with another thing. But as a rule, more or less, you can tell that a total shot. Wait. A wide shot, for example, to be able as the audience to understand the situation here, should be no less than 5 seconds. Three, depends on the situation. The more, hi, welcome. The more complex the situation is, the more time you should give the audience to understand what the situation is. I think 5 seconds is a good rule here. 5 seconds is already a lot, but yeah. And then if you have music, it depends on the rhythm of the music as well. Any further questions here? Okay. Let's go on with the next slide. Yes. Somebody has switched on his microphone. Can you please switch it off? I think, yeah, thank you. One very important thing to remember is you might be very tempted, even especially when you're in the situation of a total shot, to just zoom in. You know, oh, there's something going on. I want to be there. I can't make it quick enough to get this. I just zoom in, or I'm too lazy. I just zoom in. Don't do this. Never ever zoom in. You will lose quality of the image. It will get pixeled. It will get messed up all over the place. Move yourself. So here's a making of. This is Mattis, our prescience. How he moves within the kitchen and his cell phone. And yes, indeed, of course, he would have asked me now to, can you repeat that? I have cut this out. But this is a very important point, actually. Ask, I missed that. Sorry, can you do that again? And most of the times they're fine with it. No worries. Okay, yeah. Any further questions here?
Yeah, hi. How many
Hi.
how many angles is it there that we can take to get the B-roll? Because you showed one angle where your hand, there's a close-up with your hand, and then there's one that's further away, and then there was one that's at your face. Is there a way that we could also shoot from below to show like the chin angle from that area? Is that also possible as well?
Well, of course. Well, this refers to the 5-shot rule. You're always on the safe side if you have this 5 you know, like this resolution of a sequence. If it's 3, most of the time it's also fine, but 5 makes this even better. Or what do you mean by angle? Do you mean the axis, like camera axis?
Yeah, like for example, if the camera is shooting from the left side of your ear.
Oh, yeah.
And then
well, here you see, I will show you the camera here. You see the guy only shooting from the left side from our point of view. If he would switch angles to the wall, or axis actually, it's the camera axis, it would be irritating for the audience. We couldn't edit it because, unfortunately, I don't have an example, but I think there's an example in the link in the handout. If you switch from here to there, you jump over the axis, which is this. Can you see my finger in the image? Okay.
Yeah.
So you should decide from which side you're filming, actually, from which side you are shooting your 5 shots or your 3 shots, and then stay on this side. If you need to jump to the other side, then one solution could be to have a frontal shot. So the audience, so it's really in front of the face, for example. Then it would be okay to jump in the next shot to the other side. But most of the times it's very irritating for the audience. So I would recommend for you, for the basics to understand, just film from one side if you're in one sequence.
All right, thank you. That's very helpful.
Okay, cool. Any other questions?
Quick question. In terms of the focus, do you leave in an automatic focus, or do you freeze the focus on your phone while recording?
It depends. Yeah, well, with my professional camera, most of the times I do manual zoom, even if there's movement. But for you, I would recommend to tap once on the subject, on the main subject you want to have in focus. Tap there. And of course, the focus and also the exposure of your camera will do it automatically. And if you're planning to pan, which I wouldn't recommend so much, or if there's anything else going on, you know, like if there's people walking in front of your main subject, then I would recommend to tap to lock the screen until you see a little lock actually on your screen, which means that the focus is locked to this specific subject. And I will share with you a YouTube video where this is explained and also shown again. All right? But just to let you know here at this point. Okay, so let's go on.
I have a question. What about light conditions? Because you are sitting in front of a window, which normally I would not like if I took a picture or a video. Do you consider that before you start? That you think either I put the blinds on or put the light on, or what? How do you?
Yes, thank you for this question, Stefan. Very important and good question. If I would shoot fictional, or if I would shoot in a set interview situation or whatsoever, I would never ever do that. But in realistic situations, most of the times you don't have any chance. You know, in this situation, for example, I'm sitting in front of the camera. Mattis wouldn't have any chance to, you know, to go behind me, or it would be very narrow here for him to move. So, and as you can see, the camera is quite, it's not really the most beautiful picture, but this is not what I wanted to show. What I wanted to show is, first of all, the 5 shots rule, and then you can see that it's not a big problem. If it would be sunny and bright outside, it would have become much more of a problem. Yes, and then maybe you would have chosen to not shoot this sequence, or you would have arranged it in a different way.
Yeah, thank you.
But sometimes it's your decision. Is it worth filming the situation, even though light conditions are really bad and I don't have accessories, I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the time to come up with lighting? So is it worth filming the situation? Sometimes it is, even if the image quality suffers a bit. Okay, let's jump very quickly to interviews, because we are running out of time otherwise. Why interviews? Of course, interviews allow for authentic personal perspectives from individuals. It engages audience, builds credibility, and it makes the content more relatable and trustworthy. It's, for our purposes, it's of course excellent for purposes of documentation, of evaluation, of case studies. It's very important to have interviews. But you can actually have interviews and interviews. So again, try to try to keep it dynamic and exciting, because it's much more efficient for renative for your storytelling actually. And also, in general, clear information sticks much more in people's heads rather than too complex explanations. Again, we don't want to have talking heads. If you remember the social media clip, it was like one sentence statements, or maybe 2 or 3 sentence statements, not much more. And then we had visuals already again. And this information sticks much more in people's heads rather than too complex explanations. And then again, of course, coming back to Alice, as an expert, for example, you might be missing information that digs deeper into the content, but then you would have maybe a longer format, for example, a real documentary that explores the topic from different perspectives. So our attention span is just decreasing the longer an explanation gets, right? We all know that. So I want to share some very funny extracts of where, for example, scientists have given some funny explanations of their topics.
Because science can sometimes sound really complicated.
Man sorgt dafür, dass Inhibitoren dieses Komplementsystems auf den Schweinezellen exprimiert werden.
Pathogenicity islands, yeah, some come and go, but it's a pretty stable core genome.
Proteomics, pharmacogenomics, and the other omics.
Phew, tough language, right?
So, did you understand anything? I didn't, because first of all, I don't know anything about the topic, and most of the times our audience is non-scientific. So it's a general audience. It might be students, pupils, whatsoever. Why am I telling you that? Okay, there's a slide missing, but doesn't matter. Why am I telling you that? When you interview a person, try, and if they come up, for example, you ask them, so tell me, what do you do? And they come up with complex and very difficult explanations, scientific stuff. If you as an interviewer are not in the topic and you don't understand it, then tell them, sorry, it was a bit too scientific, too complex maybe for me. Can we break it down a bit? Can you again explain what you do in a more general manner? So, and maybe you can give an example of what you do, so we understand as an audience what you're talking about. This is a very, very basic and very important aspect when you are conducting an interview. Try to imagine how it would sound like for a general audience. And if you don't understand it, then ask in a different way. So what do you do? What does it mean if you're telling me I don't know, you're measuring the above surface of soil, blah, blah, blah. So maybe you can give me an example so I can imagine what you do. And then you can dig into asking details. Do we have any questions here? Cool. Okay, coming to the location, if you're planning your interview, it should, of course, the setting should, of course, relate to the topic that we are talking about. It shouldn't have too many distracting things in the background. It's very common, for example, in project interviews to use logos in the back or so. I don't like it personally, and actually we at ESCI, for example, don't like it because the environment in which the video will be embedded usually gives much more information than the actual video itself. So you have the logo somewhere already, and you can have the logo in the end as a disclaimer. This is kind of an information that is distracting for the audience from the key message the interviewee wants to send out here. So please keep the background clear. Also, a suggestion from my side is use the room you have to create visual depth in the background. For example, I'm sitting, if you look at me, I'm sitting quite close to the wall and there's no depth behind me. It's visually not dynamic, it's visually a bit boring. So a very simple strategy is if you have a room and you have a non-distracting background, just place the people away from walls, place the people away from any furniture to have more depth in your image. Yes,
So
please.
I have two questions with sorry,
Yes,
I have two questions with this one. So in that situation, what kind of lens do you use? And if you want to have like the background being like very blurry and stuff like that, what kind of lens and what is the how do you set the focal point for the background to be blurred?
Yeah, I mean, in this case, we have the cell phone lens, so I can't tell you what lens you have. So in this case, you would need to move towards your interviewee, right? And I won't explain other lenses here. I really stick to cell phone lenses here. So since we don't have professional lens, you and your cell phone need to go to place yourself towards the interviewee. Does this answer your question?
Yes, it does. So for example, if you have like maybe like these iPhone 13 and above, there's like a cinematic mode. Can you also use that so that the background is like a bit blur?
Yeah. It's a very tricky question because of course it might look good, but only if you know how to use it right. So it might lead a bit too far away from where we are here on a common ground. I'm personally I'm a fan of this mode, but if it's too blurry, it looks artificial. So you would need to manually set the exposure. For example, the exposure is set to just for you. For the others who don't understand, you don't need to listen right now. If your exposure is set to 2.8, you have the background will be blurred very much. So I would set it a bit more towards, I don't know, 3.5 or so, just to make sure it's not too artificially looking.
And one more question. So, sorry, I'm asking too many questions. When you are in environments that you cannot do anything about it because there is like always noise, like for example, if you're in the bush and you're doing an interview, it's very it's known that there's going to be some birds flying or some goats crying or some chickens making noise.
Yeah.
But then how would you do about that?
Yeah, very good point. We have that very often. For example, we shoot in an industrial area and we have an interview there. So you have noise. And the noise is not distracting the audience if the audience sees where it comes from or why it is there. If it's an unspecific noise, which fits to the location where you are. For example, it's a hum, diffusing hum in the background or birds in the background, and you see, for example, with birds, you see trees around the interviewee, or you have an extra shot of a bird somewhere, or a tree with a bird, then you can explain the audience where this noise comes from. What is not wanted and what is really distracting is, for example, airplanes, because this is a peak. You know, it's not always there. It doesn't fit the environment. It doesn't belong there. So any noise that doesn't belong there, such as door clapping or somebody walking by, speaking loud, or airplanes, you need to repeat your question or the interview. But anything that is embedded in the overall situation is fine. Okay, cool. So I think we should move on because I have a couple of slides here left. Of course, you would use a tripod or a gimbal, in this case, a tripod. And you want to, oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I will come back to that later. And you want to position your camera lens right at or slightly above the interviewer's eye level. You see it here. So yeah, and then also lighting. So this is actually the position of eye level here. And regarding lighting, of course, you wouldn't place the interview right in front of a window, right? Which you see here. And then you also would never switch on the artificial light of the ceiling in this case, just to brighten up the interviewee. So never mix daylight and tungsten, like meaning artificial light, because it will look very ugly. It will give very ugly skin tones. It looks, in this case, it's yellow. Never ever do that. And then, of course, you would tap once on your screen to set the exposure and the focus on the eyes. So coming back to our grids. So there's a quite complex rule, which is called the rule of thirds. And so the grid divides your image into 9 equal parts. And you can use this grid to place actually your interviewee or the subject you are filming along these lines. And this will create a really very dynamic and nice looking image. Actually, we all do this. All the professionals do that. They wouldn't use the grid maybe, but intuitively they do this. So I want to show you a short video explaining more what I'm meaning.
And applied it to their work, it seems our minds are hardwired to subconsciously recognize this ratio. Images that conform to it are said to look more beautiful than those that don't. Actually, it's quite simple to use. Just place objects of interest at the intersections of the grid lines. Put your horizon on the top or bottom horizontal line. Put people or vertical objects on the left or right vertical line. Frame your shot so their eyes are on or close to the top horizontal line. If you put objects in the center of the frame, they dominate it. Centered objects force us to look at them rather than contemplate the whole scene. Like when you're
just to give you a short impression of what am I talking about, and you will find this the link to this full video in the handout, so you can take your time and think about what we have talked about, and also discover more things in this video if you want to. Yeah, direction of interviewer's eyes. So we have this off-camera look where the interviewer would sit next to the camera and the interviewer looking at the interviewer, or we have this direct-to-camera approach, which is, for example, good for social media posts. Actually, what happens if you don't,
I think it's not that
if
good.
you don't stick to this direction of eyes approach, I'm showing you here.
I think it's not that good of a framing because I'm talking to the wall of the frame, and that's not very natural to talk.
Do you think this is a good position?
I think it's better than the other side, but still I'm looking too far to the right, and you basically only see the left side of my face, and that's too extreme.
So the best would be sitting here next to the camera angle.
Yes.
And have it right. Thanks. I think you understood my point here, right? So make sure you would always sit next to the camera and diagonal to the interviewee's face, the interviewer's eye direction. So this is the most natural way of having an off-camera look, of creating an off-camera look. Yeah. Do you have any questions on this?
Yes, I have one.
Yes.
What happens if you put your camera slightly below the level of the eye of the interviewee?
It might look a bit weird. We often have that. It happens all the time, actually. It looks a bit weird. If it's not too much, it's not big effort. But if it's too much, you will notice it looks weird.
All right.
I mean, yeah, I would recommend to have a test shoot before you start the actual interview, maybe with a dummy or a friend or whatsoever, to get a feeling of eye level and maybe also try to figure out how it feels when it's really underneath eye level or above eye level, so you get a feeling of what it looks like.
I have one question too. With the interview, is it okay to let like the kind of expression that people are going to have on their faces, right? Do you often like them make them look very serious the whole time, or just maybe a
No,
little
no,
bit?
absolutely not. I would
Because
they will be serious by themselves because they will be very, very excited. So I would engage them. I would ask them to relax, to calm down, to give me a little smile, to actually be there and be there with me, you know, I would engage them to be themselves and to have face expression, because this is what makes a personal approach. I would never ever tell them to stop smiling or to be more serious. I mean, if they are really laughing, then yes, I would say, okay, this is a bit too much, but yeah, a bit of a smile is really nice here.
I mean, like, so for example, if you're having like an interview, if you're interviewing someone about medical stuff, right? These are like serious topics, you know, and they cannot be talking about like diseases with like a big smile on and stuff like that.
No,
It
of
doesn't
course not.
really work. So
Yes, of course, it should fit the topic, and I guess your interviewee wouldn't laugh all the time while talking about diseases, right? I mean, naturally, usually. Then I would, if the interview is laughing all the time, I would ask what is so funny about this. Maybe it's she or he or whatsoever can explain it to me, and this might be even interesting for the interview. So if there is something weird going on with the face expression that doesn't seem to fit the topic, I would ask. So explain it. Maybe it's even interesting for the interview, for the topic.
and one more question. So again with the angles, when you're having like you said there is one where there's the camera is like on this side and the person is like looking on this side. Sometimes you're talking to the interviewer when it's on for social media as well. There are other videos that I've seen so far that sometimes the camera it's like wider away and sometimes like very, very close to the person. So what's up with that one too?
So I was a bit distracted. Sorry, can you repeat your question? The wider away and closer to the person.
Yeah, so there was like I saw a video some time ago. There was like an interview that someone was being interviewed, and then there was like the camera angle. There was one like farther away, and then there was another one that cut to like the
Oh,
very
okay, I
close,
see what you mean.
really
Yeah.
close up.
Yeah. I mean, this is just it's a very common issue with professional filmmakers to have two cameras, actually, one close-up camera as a portrait and one total situation camera. It's not for you here. Of course, this is a very nice way to have more footage and to have more edit variety in editing, especially if people stumble a lot or if the content is really complex. You have more variety to make cuts, to edit it more dynamic. This is the only reason. You're welcome. So we need to hurry up a bit. We will have time maybe in the end. I want to urge you to use always external microphones. There's very simple ones, and you will find the link in the handout as well, where to buy it. Very cheap one, but they enhance actually your sound. For example, if you don't use a microphone, it would sound like this in a staircase in this case.
Well, here you can see our beautiful stairway, and that's our stairway to get to work, and after work back home. And basically, yeah, that's our beautiful stairway, and here's very nice audio.
So of course it's very creepy audio, and this is an example with microphone.
Yeah, so here we are in our stairway, and that's basically our way into our work and office, and after work then back home, and yeah, that's basically our stairway. Yeah,
so please always use microphones. Even the cheap one like this one it's an increase of audibility, of audio quality. And of course, if you have a better one, then use the better one. But already this cheap microphone increases the quality of your audio, of your interview a lot. And you would place it, yeah, if you can place it a bit further down the pullover, it would be better in this case, because here the voice is a bit too strong. It's a bit too close to the mouth. But if you can place it somewhere at the chest, that would be perfect. Okay, yeah. So coming to asking questions, actually we already have talked about this. Just as a reminder before we go into the exercise, how to get clear and good to use answers. So always ask easy and understandable questions, and repeat key questions in other contexts. So for example, if you have an answer already, maybe you might repeat it within another context, so you have another tonus, you have another the answer is embedded in another context, which might also be interesting for editing the whole thing. So, and sometimes the interviewee tends to explain too much in one term, and then you can say, okay, that was really a lot of content you gave me here. Let's break it down a bit. You said that. So let's stay there for a little while. Can you explain this in detail, or can you give a little example? And then you would come to the next step. So sometimes it's needed to calm the interviews down and just break the complex content down into separate questions. And sometimes also the interviewee might be stuck with one question. Then you would repeat it. And maybe if the interviewer is really having a blackout, just go on with the other question and come back to the question with the blackout later on. So it gives, on a psychological level, it gives the interviewee the time to reset for the question where she had a blackout. Yes, Harry.
What do you do with the voice, with the sound quality of your own voice? I mean, you're on the backside of your own phone, aren't you?
Well, usually my own question is not being edited in the final video. Thank you for asking this, Harry, because it's very important to ask the interview to implement my question and their answers, because if my question is not audible, no one will understand the context. So for example, if I ask you, so tell me what you do, then I would ask you to implement my answer within your my question within your answer, meaning, so what I do here is, the interview would start, for example, with what I do here is ma 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 ma. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Start with a self-introduction as an icebreaker, and always try to bring the interviewer back to a little more personal approach. Now, running out of time, I think we have answered some of the questions already. I would like to send you into breakout sessions. Abdul, are we ready for that?
Yes, I can.
Oh,
feel
sorry.
it.
Yeah. Wait. Okay. Now I need to. Sorry for that. I have cracked up my. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. So the exercise is you will be 3 people in the breakout session, 1 interviewee, 1 interviewer, 1 observer. And you have this interview situation. So as an interviewer, you want to find out what the interviewee has to do with soil and CURIOSOIL. So what is the connection between the person and soil, and why is this person participating in CURIOSOIL? So yeah, maybe the answers are usable for a case study, for example, but try to break the ice and try to keep it simple and short and try to get precise answers with a personal approach. And so after you have finished, you start a little feedback round within your group. So you would start with the observer. The observer should give feedback as the first person, then the interviewee and the interviewer. What your feeling is, what you think went well and what you think went not so well. Actually, I've planned much longer time for this. So now we have altogether like 5 minutes for this. Maybe you keep it just simple and ask 1 question. All right, are you prepared? Let's start. Okay, who's sending the people, Enrique?
Yeah, I thought Abdul was sending.
Yeah, I was on it. I just need